So this is a video that we have probably been putting off because talking about her is really painful, and trying to get through this video is going to be painful. But it's something that we definitely need to talk about, and the beauty that has come out of it, because it's the only way to look at situations like that without being upset and holding grudges and wallowing in misery, is looking at the silver lining of things. But unfortunately, we lost Baby Ruth. She started out with what we thought was a little tummy ache, didn't want to eat, had a little bit of diarrhea. And the minute she had diarrhea, we thought the worst. We thought parvo. That was our worst at the time. We took her to our vet. We ran tests, fecal exams, parvo test, x-rays. And they're like, she might just have a little stomach bug. You know, here's some anti-diarrhea medication, some anti-nausea.
Well, we actually ran blood work too.
Yeah. And the blood work didn't come back until we were driving home.
So on the way home, we got the blood work back.
Yeah.
And it showed that she was anemic. So we got her to the nearest emergency hospital.
Yeah.
Had her hospitalized. They were not able to do a MRI, I believe is what it was that we need. Ultrasound.
It was an ultrasound. Well, what also showed up in her blood work was her liver enzymes were through the roof.
Yeah.
And our primary vet, it was on a Friday, was closing in an hour. And they said she has to be hospitalized immediately. This isn't something that's going to come down on its own. You know, take her to the nearest emergency room. And that's when we went there. But unfortunately, they have a traveling ultrasonographer, if that's what it's called. And they weren't going to be there for the rest of the day.
So we raced over to another emergency hospital because they could get her in for an ultrasound right away. We got that ultrasound done and then went to a third emergency hospital because the emergency hospital we were at couldn't do a blood transfusion the same day.
Yep.
So we ended up getting her to MedVet
in Dallas.
In Dallas, where she was hospitalized, got her transfusion. And then the ultrasound came back and showed some irregularities in her heart. They diagnosed her with DCM, which for a puppy, especially one that's not a Doberman, is very, very rare. So we knew something was off at this point. We ran every test you could possibly run under the sun.
Yep.
Nothing was really improving. They were able to stabilize her. She was hospitalized for about a week.
Yep.
I think. And throughout the course of that week, we were going by, visiting, throwing her little parties.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep her spirits up and enjoy the time we had with her. Because with the DCM diagnosis, we knew essentially at that point, from what the doctor was saying, with the damage to her heart, at best, we would have a couple weeks with her, maybe a month, if we were able to get her out of the hospital. So we were trying to make the most of every day at that point. They ended up, a different radiologist looked at the ultrasound and the damage to her heart and noted that they should check for Chagas disease or African sleeping sickness. It's got a few names, which I've never heard of. Steph's never heard of.
Yeah. They said it's very rare for a puppy her age to be diagnosed with DCM. Typically, DCM is something that happens to a dog over time, and you typically start testing dogs at 2 years of age with EKGs, and the breeds that are prominent to that are larger breeds. A lot of Dobermans, giant Schnauzers, I believe, poodles. So typically, it's not something that you catch really early on as a 8-week-old puppy. So when the cardiologist looked at the ultrasound of her heart as well, he said, it's a long shot because we haven't seen this in 15 years, but test her for Chagas disease. And
so at this
that was going to take 5 days to get back.
Yeah, so ran the test. Results were going to take 5 days. I think they sent it to Cornell or Texas A&M is where they had to send it off to. But yeah, I'd never heard of it. So the next 48 hours, Steph and I just obsessed over learning everything we could about
Yep.
Chagas disease.
We went down the rabbit hole.
The primary vet also did a bunch of research because he hadn't seen it in 15 years in Dallas. And if you're not familiar with Chagas disease, there is no real cure. There's a kind of experimental treatment, but it's not legal in the United States. And from everything I read, it does not sound very promising. Sounds like there's a reason it's not legal here. But basically what happens in humans, at least from what I read, is it's this parasite that obviously damages the heart. And in humans, they've found that it actually moves its way up to the brain. From what I've read, again, the research is scarce, but the African sleeping sickness name comes from in humans, they seem to be almost zombies during the day. And then at night or early morning hours,
Spurts of
they
energy.
get these crazy peaks of energy and then come back down. But it is fatal. There is no cure for dogs. And it was towards...
And just so that, you guys have a little bit of information, these bugs are small. They're probably a little bigger than an ant. They're from the pictures that we saw, they're fairly small. A dog could either get infected by a bite, actually consuming an infected bug,
Keep passed down
fecal,
from the mom.
or it's passed down from the mother. The mother could have been a carrier of the disease and then passed it down through the placenta. So those are the different ways that a dog can contract it. So
Yeah, and Baby Ruth being rescued out on the border.
yeah.
And we found out later, which we'll get to, her pack, literally they would spend the day in Mexico cooling off in the river, and they would come back to the United States
Yeah.
at night
Our little
because there was
international traveler.
a property there they're being fed. So
Yeah.
most likely she was bit
Or she could have eaten the bug.
or eaten the bug.
But unfortunately, like Duke said, those 48 hours we were doing a ton of research on what we could do. What can we do? Because once, if it did come back that she had this disease, we were essentially at a standstill. With DCM, we could at least bring her home, manage her with, heart medication. And we've done that before. We've had dogs in our care that have had DCM. And
It went from
it was a
weeks-
roller coaster ride, but
weeks, months if she has DCM, to days if it's Chagas disease.
right.
And we went to visit towards the end of the week. And as we were walking in, we got as we were walking in to visit, we got a call that she had passed away. We had brought a little stroller for her adventure that day. The plan was to get her outside and get some
her
fresh air and sun.
Sunshine.
So, obviously it was a shock. I think, by the end of the year, I think we're probably going to be right around 700 dogs rescued in the 6-7 years we've been doing this. We've lost 84 dogs up to this point, and a lot of the dogs we rescue, you guys know. We take in a lot of senior dogs, a lot of hospice dogs, severe medical, overbred mamas that have cancer. And it's not that it's easy. It sucks every time you lose a dog. But you go through it so many times knowing a little bit, typically after that first medical eval, we know like, hey, this dog's got terminal cancer. This dog's 15, has had a rough life. We got a couple months.
Right.
And we could focus on making those months the best we can. And it's a little bit of closure knowing that we gave them a good transition, a good end of their life.
Yeah.
With Ruth, I was so convinced she was going to be okay. Even when we got the DCM diagnosis, I thought, okay, we're going to get a couple months.
Yeah.
And this is why we found her. And then losing her as we were walking in was just a real kick in the gut. And I think for both of us, maybe more so me, it just made me question a lot of things. It was really hard to accept that
I think for the
she
both
came
of
into our
us.
life just for us to lose her like this.
Yeah. Well, I think that was a point for Duke, and if I'm speaking out of turn here, let me know. But I felt like Duke wanted to throw in the towel for rescue in general. It was something that came out of left field. Literally that Wednesday, before she didn't want to eat her food, she was playing in the kitchen.
Yep.
And jumping around, and then all of a sudden, within a 6-day span, we lose her. And it was something that we could have never expected. And it's been a little bit, and it's not something that we're ever going to get over. Ruth is going to be a dog that we miss for the rest of our lives, for sure. Hands down. There was something so special about her, and Duke definitely had a different connection with Baby Ruth. But you don't expect it when it's a little puppy, and we rarely take in puppies. We thought to ourselves,
Yeah, we had obviously, I mean, it's always rough, but a rough stretch, and Nova Gray left for her trial run, and a rescue friend of ours, Becca and Dee, who run Yaki Rescue, sent us this puppy, and we were like, oh, she looks like Opal. Yeah. Let's take it in a nice, easy case, and find her a great home. And it was just a big shock. A big shock, and it, not that any of it's fair, but it really felt unfair.
We were really upset.
And the silver lining that I think we're starting to find happened a couple days after she passed. Wisdom DNA actually reached out a few weeks prior about partnering up. And if you guys follow us on Instagram, you know that we've never partnered with a company in the dog space. And that's because Steph and I are very anal about, who we partner with, who we promote. And they reached out and wanted us to do this promotion. And I actually told them no off the bat. I'd like to go through the process as a customer to make sure that it's something that we actually like, which I'm sure not a lot of influencers in the space do. It's, kind of like, yeah, sure, pay me. But we wanted to go through the process. And because we do things the way we do, because we did it this way, the timing of it lined up perfect. If we had just jumped in, I don't think we would have tested Ruth, but we put it off, wanted to go through it as customers, and the test showed up, and we were able to do Baby Ruth. A few weeks later, we got
her results.
And I couldn't open them off the bat, but then I got a message, and it was a lady who had rescued one of Ruth's sisters. She had shown up on the ancestry part of the DNA test, and we got to talking, and she wanted to hop on a call, which we were all for. We let her know about Baby Ruth, and we got on the phone with her, and she said she rescued Rio, Ruth's half-sister, from the same area, Brownsville, Texas, right out on the border. And we were asking, when you rescued her, did you see a mom? Was there a pack of dogs? Like, what's the situation? Because South Texas, it's stray dogs everywhere. And she goes, yeah, I'm actually looking at her mom right now.
Okay.
Ruth's mom is, hold on, it's just, she needs some like shady food. Okay. She's not motivated by a snack right there, like the real thing. And that's probably Ruth's dad right there.
Okay.
You said this one was Ruth's mom?
Yes.
This black one?
Ruth's mother.
It's Ruth's mom.
So just to give you guys a little bit of a backstory on her, she is part of the Coast Guard.
Yep.
And she is stationed out in Brownsville and will be there for the next few months. But she rescued Ruth's half-sister and, or half-brother. Is it half-brother? Half-sibling. And
half-brother.
Half-brother,
yeah.
Half-brother. And he now lives in Boston. So when she's done with her tour here, she'll go back home to him in Boston. But she's stationed out there, and every night she goes and she has her dinner.
It's been for 6 months.
Yeah.
I think is what she said. For about 6 months, she had been feeding this pack of stray dogs. And before she rescued Rio, she actually tried to rescue Ruth and Ruth's direct siblings.
Yeah, we actually found, me and my partner, when we were working, we came over here and that's where we found the little puppies, Ruth.
They were able to get Rio, but Ruth and her siblings that were with her got away and they never saw them again.
Yeah.
With stray dogs, feral dogs like this, I don't think a lot of people have experience with it. It's really hard to catch feral dogs.
Yeah.
She's been feeding these dogs for 6 months, I think is what she said, and not a single one actually comes up to her at this point. They still don't trust her enough to come up. It's kind of throw food down. So it's tough. You
Yeah.
know?
Just imagine a wild animal.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Think
They
of a
don't
coyote
understand
or a
human
fox.
touch, sound.
They've never been
yeah.
touched by a human.
I mean, these are dogs that she was filling us in. Literally, there's a property owner out there right on the border who will throw food out or leave food for them down every night. And they literally cross the border and go swim during the day because it's hot, and they come back at night, and then they hop back in between. I mean, these are very feral dogs.
Yeah.
That really have never had experience or contact with humans.
It's a pack of 7, 8.
7 dogs. So we got the information from her. We got the address, the property owner's information. And then we got in touch with Beck and Dee from Yaki's Rescue, and they run a rescue out in South Texas, which a lot of credit to them, because South Texas
That's rough.
is a brutal, it's just, again, it's brutal case after brutal case after brutal case. If you guys remember Linda's from South Texas. She was out on the border with Littlefoot. I mean, some of the worst neglect, abuse, just brutal situations. We see her out there. It's awful. But we got the information and we called Becca that night and we were like, we're going to make this happen.
About 7.5 months old.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one, you could probably feed her, put a slip lead around her
Okay.
really quickly. The rest won't even come near.
We are going to get her family because
Yeah.
it's going to mean that Ruth's life still has purpose.
Right. And
That's the only thing I can
this
think
was
of.
the reason.
Yeah.
I mean,
Whether that's rational or not, it gives us a little bit of closure that she came into our life so that we could rescue her family. So that is the goal at this point, our kind of singular focus. You know, we started to kind of devise this plan on how we were going to pull this off. And we wanted to document as much as we can about this situation, not just for Ruth, but to also raise some awareness around the situation in South Texas, because that area does need help and they need funding.
yeah.
I mean, there's nothing. There's no animal control. There's nobody to help outside of some independent rescuers. And it's just the
It's
most
dangerous
impossible
work.
uphill battle you
Yeah.
could possibly think of.
Yep.
So we are going to start Ruth's family's rescue adventure here.
Yeah.
And take you guys along for the ride. And also, I think, go through the process, which we've taken in some feral dogs.
Nothing like this.
Nothing like this. So it's
Yeah.
going to be a learning experience for us. And I think eye-opening for a lot of people to watch the process of what it takes to domesticate and break through to truly feral dogs. And that's going to be a wrap for this one. See you guys on the next one.